We basically asked a very basic question as to why should we pay this guy called broker 1 month of rent? If you're an owner and you want to basically give your house, bachelors would pay you more. So bias towards religion, caste, veg, non-veg, bachelors, I think all of these need to now go in this era. Typically the rental yields are 2 to 4% while the home loan is 8%. So it makes sense to, so unless the appreciation is like 5 to 7% per year on a long-term basis, it does not make sense to rent.
This big question that's out there is that how do you make your money, right? Because if you don't charge brokerage, are you selling user data? Hey there and welcome to Paisa. I'm Anupam Gupta. Want to get smart with your money? We bring in top experts to show you where to invest, what financial trends to follow, and how to build lasting wealth. Ready to get smarter with your money? Hit that subscribe button for Paisa and check out our episodes. Folks, welcome to Paisa. I'm yours Anupam Gupta, and on today's episode, I've got a truly unique real estate prop tech startup summary that I've wanted on my show for quite some time. NoBroker, Amit Agarwal, CEO and co-founder of NoBroker. Amit, welcome to Paisa. Thank you so much for doing this for our audience.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start with what we were talking before the show. Amit, you guys have been around for quite some time. Started in Bombay. I remember like back in the day in 2013, and I stay in the western suburbs where there are only brokers and brokers and brokers and brokers. Suddenly there's no broker. Let's start with your journey here. I found it very unique, very interesting. Tell us about why you started this, when you started it, and how has the journey been so far?
So we basically asked a very basic question as to why should we pay this guy called broker 1 month of rent or 2% of fees? So our question was very basic. And in India, the way in which things are, and as you know, because there is no certification, there is no examination. So all kind of fly-by-night operators, people who just want to make quick buck, they have also become brokers. So my own experience and my experiences of my co-founders was very bad when we dealt with brokers. We felt he's trying to push the inventory, which is not moving. The moment we like a house, he's saying, hey, this is other people are also interested, and you quickly decide and this property is going to go away. And we felt he's not getting us the best deal, and he's also hiding information. So the question was, why can't technology disrupt this? So we started with that question. Everybody around us was doing it with brokers. And we did it without broker. And once you put the name, there was no going back.
So tech has been an integral part of this journey. And we'll get into all of that in a bit. You disrupted the middleman, but now we've got another set of problems, okay? Because, and I've seen this probably in Bangalore, Bombay mein to hota hi hai. Veg, non-veg chahiye. Deposit apparently in Bangalore has reached another zone only because the market is so hot. What's happening? Just help us understand this. Are landlords sitting in some zone where they feel they can extract any rent and every rent as possible? This veg non-veg show has been there for quite some time. I don't know what your experience is, but what's happening?
So see, basically what happens is that many of the owners have strong religious belief or have strong practices wherein they practice being vegetarian. And they don't like this feeling in that in their house somebody will be a non-vegetarian. So I have been in such a situation wherein I'm a non-vegetarian and I rented a house where the owner was vegetarian and the broker conveniently forgot to tell me that he is not okay with non-veg. and later we would have to basically hide things and think about smell once we were cooking. So as a non-vegetarian, of course, it is very inconvenient. But the truth of the matter is that there are owners who feel very strongly about it. Is there a negative impact on the speed at which your house gets rented? Yes, there is.
There is.
And is there a possibility that you may get slightly lesser rent? Yes, there is.
Okay.
So what we actively try to do is we try to educate the owner that, hey, it's taking time. Why don't you open up your options? And many of the owners do it. So they say, okay, fine. You go ahead and you basically allow the non-veg also. So that happens. Security deposit is a different game. And we have seen both phases. So we have seen the COVID phases where the owners are okay with, Bangalore owners are okay with 2 months of deposit.
It is standard, right?
Which is supposed to be standard across the country.
I think in Bombay it's 2 to 3 months depending on how, but 3 months से ज़्यादा नहीं होता है.
But in Bangalore, the average is between 4 to 6 months.
4 to 6 months.
Yes, of rent as a deposit. Now, if you ask why,
4 to 6 months.
yes,
So if I'm at 50K a month, they want 3 lakhs of deposit.
yeah,
And
many of the houses.
तो क्या पैकेज होता है उसका? That becomes like a 53 का पैकेज or something, right? Whatever it is. चलो ठीक है.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Go on.
So many of the houses in Bangalore, the owners ask for 4 to 6 months of deposit. Now we are hoping that once the Model Tenancy Act, and we'll talk more about it, when that comes in, then this practice will go away. So right now it is more about demand and supply. In COVID, it was other way around. So there, the owners who are charging 6 months of rent as deposit were agreeing for 2 months. But now, because not much of construction has happened because of COVID, and in startup area especially, there are lesser apartments, more people joining the workforce. So it is back to that level. So
Okay.
that is the sad reality.
So if I've got this that this is a Bangalore problem.
Yes.
This is not a Delhi or a Bombay
No,
or
no.
any other city
No.
problem. Let's get into the Model Tenancy Act. You just mentioned it right now.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
So Model Tenancy Act is a very good act which balances between tenants' rights and the owner's right. Should I just tell more about it?
Go for it, please.
So what basically the act says is, and it has
it's
been
proposed,
it has been passed by the parliament. Now the problem is it's a state subject.
That's what.
So
That's
every
just-
state needs to.
so it's like RERA.
Right.
Passed at the center, enacted at the state.
Yes.
So it's not happening in Karnataka, is
It's
it?
not happening in Karnataka yet.
Okay.
Because the governments are different in the center and the state. And what the act is very good. Act says that you cannot charge more than 2 months of deposit.
Huh.
Everything has to be the way in which agreements are registered in Bombay, but it is not registered elsewhere in the country. The same thing has to be applied. So everywhere you should register so that there's a proper legal documentation, there's a proof, nobody can shortchange anyone, and a tenant cannot be evicted mid of the year. You need to give notice proper. You cannot escalate the rent whenever you want. It has to be in writing. There has to be enough notice.
What you're saying is so taken for granted in Bombay. In my rent agreement, I can see that 6 months lock-in, 1 month notice, 5% escalation. ये तो मतलब बकायदा वो.
Yeah.
You're
but-
saying it doesn't happen in other.
No, in other cities there are problems because in many
Oh.
of the cities this is more of oral or lack of proper documentation and hence lack of resolution when there is a conflict.
Wow. Okay, go
So-
on, please go on.
So the act says that, and the act is not just in the favor of tenant. It also helps owners by saying that, hey, you will pay for these things, tenant will pay for these things, and if a tenant overstays or doesn't pay the rent, then these are the penalties. So if he overstays, then double the rent. If he overstays further, then 4 times the rent.
Wow.
So it is a very good act which balances both the rights.
Okay.
Yeah, but the thing is that it needs to be implemented, and it also comes up with the whole hierarchy saying there will be a rent authority, there will be a rent court, there will be a rent tribunal. So if there's any conflict, then you can go through that process.
Very interesting. So at least we've established one thing that, landlords, if you're looking at this, then if you're doing a wedge only thing, तो rental yield पे फर्क पड़ने वाला है.
हाँ जी,
There is going to be some impact on that. My favorite question, bachelor tax. Okay. What is this? I mean, it seems that, this is also true in Bombay. If you're single, आपको घर नहीं मिलने वाला है. Doesn't matter whether you're a boy or a girl. I think it's probably worse if you're a girl. Platform like NoBroker, what are you guys doing here? Can there be a trust score or something? Because this is nothing but discrimination. Okay. One thing that I'm getting a lot, and I think that's true for India, is that landlords are attached to their house.
Yeah.
So non-veg है तो problem है, single है तो problem है. Okay. Maybe some of it is justified. You have single, people, then late nights and all that. Some people have a problem. ठीक है, society has a problem. What are you guys doing in this? Yeah?
So we have basically, our role here is to actively tell landlord that forget about the old biases and look at the new situation. I'm sure that the landlord's son or daughter is also living as a bachelor in some other city and is perhaps facing the same problem, but that person is not a person which is bad or should not be given a house. So I think traditionally or in the past, there must have been incidents where there were noise complaints or there were some complaints by the society and the owners felt it is safer to basically have non-bachelors. But right now the truth is that if you see the demographic profile, the percentage component of youngsters, unmarried percentage, is very high. And as luck would have it, if you are an owner and you want to basically give your house, bachelors would pay you more because the family, because bachelors can share it, they have a higher disposable income, so they are paying more. So my suggestion would be to give it a chance to the bachelors. You will earn also more, and it's good for the society also.
Yeah. There's one thing I've noticed in Bombay. I don't know whether that's true. I'm sure that in Bangalore it's probably magnified. आजकल क्या होता है ना, प्रोफाइल बनता है. So if I'm a landlord, I have a house, I hire a broker. The broker comes with a file, PDF है जो भी है, and then photo of the tenant, prospective tenant. Is this a practice that's happening? Like name, address, work, this, that. मतलब कुछ नहीं तो LinkedIn profile भी डाल देंगे यार. So
No, I think this was happening in some pieces in a very small time period, which was just after COVID, when everybody rushed back to the cities and there was huge demand and owners had a lot of choice. And at that point of time, basically this was happening, but not any longer. But to be fair, I must also tell you that although many of these things seem to be things which these landlords are doing and they are perhaps being too demanding, but I have also seen that time when in COVID, the flats were empty. And the landlords, many of them who are retired, who are dependent on the rental income, have suffered hugely.
wow.
So in those 2 or 3 years, there was a huge loss to the owners also.
Yeah.
So perhaps in some extent, they also want to recoup those losses. Yeah. So
Can there be, can proptech have a rating system? See, in drivers and in hailing apps like Uber hai, Ola hai, jo bhi hai, there's a driver rating, there's a rider rating. Matlab, the driver can rate me and I can rate the driver. You think that something like this can work in?
So I can't tell you how many people have asked me this, and almost everybody wishes there was a system where I could tell you that this tenant has a rating of 3 out of 5. The problem here is the non-repeat nature of this product. As a Uber driver, as a Ola driver, I basically use it every day or every few
10
days.
times in a day, maybe.
10 times in a day, and you
Yeah.
can give the rating. Here it is once in a year. And how do you, and when the quantity of sample data is small, then biases creep in. And hence it may be unfair on either side. So there's a practical problem to it, but the theory or the concept that we should be able to know whether this is a Khadus owner or whether this is a Badmash tenant, you are right.
I have a counter to that also. There are sites that exist that rate companies when you're looking for a job.
Yeah.
I can argue that jobs are also not, people
right.
don't change their jobs. So वहाँ भी ऐसा हो सकता है. तो यहाँ पे तो I'm assuming Reddit will have something somewhere. At least in a tech city like Bangalore, they'll have like a full list. Chalo, anyway. Now, this big question that's out there is that how do you make your money, right? Because if you don't charge brokerage, are you selling user data, right? Because you will have some pretty good stuff with you. And there are people who will pay for that. Packers, movers, loan agents. Can you, so how does this work?
So first of all, as NoBroker, we make more than 1,000 crore of revenue per year. So we're a strong company, strong financial company. We don't need to do any of this stuff. And second thing is about practicality also. So the reason why we founded NoBroker was because we were pained off the unnecessary phone call that we used to get from brokers or builders because other sites used to sell our data. So one thing is basically that it benefits nobody. Second is our thought is that why don't we only provide these services? So today we provide home loan, we provide packers and movers,
okay.
we do home interiors, and hence there is no need for us to ever shortchange our consumers because we offer these services. It's best that customer only uses our services. So it's not in our economic interest also to basically do it.
1,000 crores?
Yes.
So you're close to your listing then on BSE or somewhere on stock exchange. Do you think that's going to happen soon?
Yeah, so we think in the next 2 to 3 years is what when we want to list.
But it's also a good time to explain your business model. I mean, you call yourself NoBroker, means you don't get commission. पैसा कहाँ से बनता है?
So one is in real estate, what we say is the default is free. So till now, the cumulative customer base that we have is 4 crore. So 4 crore Indians have come, registered on NoBroker,
Wow.
acted as tenant or acted as a owner. So we are a large company that way. But majority of them are free.
Okay.
So for a small percentage of them, say 5-10%, we say that if you want value-added services, you pay us couple of $1,000.
Okay.
You would have paid 25,000 to a broker, you pay us 3,000 rupees. And for that, your property will be on the top, so it will get more calls.
Okay.
Or you will get more options to see the owners, you can see the owner faster. So some value-added services are there. So this is from real estate. Then what we discovered was that people want to move their stuff. So when you have real owner information, he wants to move stuff. He wants to do home interiors. He wants to take home loan. He wants to do legal documentation. So we offer all these services and we make revenue from them.
Very interesting. Okay, favorite question across social media, across everywhere. एक ही सवाल होता है, rent versus buy. See, and in some cities, so I can understand Bangalore especially, rents are going into another zone only. Okay, might be good for landlord, but for me as a tenant, you know, what should I do? Should I just stop renting? Should I buy? What's your personal view? And since you're also offering home loans now, I'm assuming that you're agnostic. आपको rent करना है, buy करना है, I am the same person.
Correct.
What's your view?
So see, now it's a question with many layers. From a broad perspective, renting may make sense. Why? Because typically the rental yields are 2 to 4%, while the home loan is 8%. So it makes sense to, so unless the appreciation is like 5 to 7% per year on a long-term basis, it does not make sense to rent.
Okay.
Doesn't make sense to buy, right?
Yeah.
So from that mathematical perspective and a zoom out perspective, it makes sense to continue with the rent. But the layer is that if you get a great deal in which the house is going to appreciate much, much more, then it makes sense to buy.
Yeah.
Second thing is that what about that you can't, that if you want to have an emotional asset which you can modify the way in which you want, then you want to buy. So there are layers to it. But if you, and I think in the recent social media, the whole lot of conversation about rent versus buy is because the rents have escalated very drastically. But that's going to plateau now because the rental yield also talks about the affordability and there is only a limit up to which you can increase the rent.
Yeah.
So I think rental yields are going to calm down. So if that is the worry, then you should wait for a year. But rent versus buy basically depends upon how good deal you are getting and whether it's a financial decision or an emotional decision.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So, folks, no black and white answers out there. If you watch previous episodes of Paisa Vaisa also, you'll see a lot of people have come in and said the same thing. It's not something that can be easily answered in a yes or a no. It depends on your stage of life, your budget, what your requirements are, and more. Okay, Amit, I want to go into this Model Tenancy Act a little bit more. I don't know when it'll get passed, but you know that the most sensitive points of disputes on both the sides of the table. Let's list those issues because they affect the tenant and they affect the landlord, and how can the Model Tenancy Act play a role in resolving these disputes. Okay, so first, what are the top 3 or 4 points that always cause a problem in any rental agreement? And I'm sure that it affects both the parties. I can't say that this affects only tenants or this affects only landlords. Let's go into that.
So see, few things which are very important to be laid very clearly is that first of all, in many of the cases, people move into the houses and you will be surprised to know without documentation. So because you live in Bombay, so it's difficult for you to believe that. But in other cities, many a time tenants are so desperate to get the house that they will not even ask for the owner's KYC. They will just transfer the rent amount as an advance.
Okay.
And in some cases, when the owner is too smart, then they don't return it back, etc. Some those cases also. So the first very basic one is proper documentation signing. So what Model Tenancy Act says is every rent agreement has to be registered with us.
Okay.
So with the rent authority,
correct,
you need to register.
Yeah.
So that first step, which many of us take for granted, is very, very required. So that's the first step of problem.
Hold that. The experience in Bombay works something like this. Okay, there's an entire process. Okay, if there is a broker, great. He will, he'll send you. I think एक initial कुछ होता है. Then agreement आता है.
Correct.
तो आप token देते हो.
हाँ जी.
Okay, so there's an entire process.
Correct.
Then there's a meeting with the society.
Yeah.
Only when there's a police verification. वो सब चीज होने के बाद ही आप बिल्डिंग में एंटर कर सकते हो.
पर वो और जगह नहीं है.
Seriously?
ये केवल बॉम्बे में है जहाँ पे इतना
sorry.
checking है.
I'm kind of which markets?
All other markets, every market.
You just take the keys and that's it. You're done.
You in many of the places, as long as the owner is getting the rent, the deposit and the rent, he's fine.
Wow.
In some of the cases, documentation is done later. Some of the cases when it is done later, then it creates problem. And police verification is very rare.
It's very rare.
Very rare in other cities.
Wow.
It's the societies in Bombay which make it compulsory, but in other cities it is very rare.
ठीक है, चलो. Let's, I'm sorry, I had kind of hard to get that, but let's
Yeah.
go to point number 2.
So the first was documentation. The second point is clearly saying that what will happen if I want to increase the rent. So many a times what happens is that the owner, if he gets a good deal from elsewhere, he may say that, hey, I want to increase the rent midway. So the law protects the tenant by saying that you cannot do this. There has to be at least a 3-month notice, and then only you can basically increase the rent. And you need to write clearly in the documentation what are the slabs, etc. So that is the second thing. A third thing, as a part of documentation is, which is very important, is that caps the deposit for 2 months of rent, which I would say financially is the strongest point of the act, because it will basically remove those 6 months deposit practices. Then, as I said, on the other end, it protects, and there's another problem in the country is that many of the owners don't want to give their empty houses on rent.
Help me understand.
Yeah,
Why
the
would-
reason is because they feel that, hey, this is an asset where I want to retire and live. I don't want anybody to squat on this. So I don't want
Ah.
anybody to basically take there are cases, be it big cities or be it small cities, there are cases where there are people who have taken over the house and the owner is now helpless.
We've seen Khosla Ka Ghosla.
Yeah.
If there's a movie made on it, then I'm sure that the problem is real enough.
So the act basically says that you can't do this. I will come and help you. Any matter related to rent will not go to the local civil court. It cannot.
Oh.
They don't have the jurisdiction.
Okay.
I have the jurisdiction. So the rent authority, so they have rent authority, they have rent court and rent tribunal. So there is a hierarchy there for appeal, and there are days defined that within 60 days the decision will come. So if there's any conflict, this will solve it. So that's another very good thing about it. And lastly, that to protect the owner also. If you overstay, then there are penalties. That if a tenant overstays, then rent will double, it will quadruple if he stays for 2 more months. So it is a very, very balanced act.
The only challenge is when and how this gets passed, right? Across each and every state. Because like RERA also, we saw the implementation happened, and I think it's been probably 10 odd years to RERA. I don't know when the Central Act was passed. I still think somewhere it is still builder थोड़ा सा उनके favor में जाता है, but it's hard to say. Out of all the disputes, out of all the fights that you've seen, in just a very broad way, the agreements are tilted towards who, in your opinion? Towards the landlord, towards the tenant, or it's 50-50?
Depends upon the property. If
Huh.
the property is in the high demand,
Huh.
then it is likely that it will be tilted in the favor of landlord.
Oh.
If the property is in the moderate demand, then it is balanced. And if nobody is coming, nobody is renting, then owner is very, very happy to tilt it in favor of tenant. So there is the answer depends upon attractiveness of the property.
Very interesting. Very, very, very interesting. But tell me one thing. Before we go into break, let's say you had the opportunity to change one law or one regulation or one thing that is coming in the middle of all this. Model Tenancy Act is fine. You can say that Model Tenancy Act is actually what I would recommend, and I'm good with that. But if you have an opportunity to change something in the housing sector, because I know that if you make a list of the nature of cases lying in the courts, housing would be in the top 5.
Yeah.
And if you can unlock that, I don't know how much you can achieve in this country.
Correct.
In your opinion, if you had the chance, what would you change?
So I would see, when I look at from a zoom out perspective, in rental, the biggest problem is empty houses because owners are scared. That will get solved partially through the Model Tenancy Act. So that I'm comfortable. In the buy and sell, I think the biggest problem had been about builders not delivering on time, not delivering at all. That has been partially solved with RERA. So I think, that's a very good step in the positive direction. And I'm hoping it will be close to perfect. But I think time will tell as to what are the loopholes that people will find in RERA and will it be bad for consumer. But I think right now we are okay because too much of regulation in this sector is also harmful.
Also harmful. Yeah.
So, but I'm just hoping to see that how RERA pans out.
How
over
old are you
years.
guys?
We are 11 years old.
11 years old, right? I mean, 11 years, including 2-3 years of the lockdown also in the pandemic
Yes,
also.
yes, yes.
Any major changes that you've seen in, either the buy-sell agreement or in the rental agreement in these 11 years, which I think for a startup is as good as 25 years for a normal...
No, so what happens in typically in housing is that things don't change much because
Huh.
the broad contours are similar.
Huh.
I think what is basically happening now is that one change which we have seen from the buy sell perspective is that people are now, because of COVID, giving much more importance to the amenities and to the size of the house. So earlier the thing was, hey, I'm always in office. How does the it matter? Let me live closer to the office, even if the house is smaller, even if the amenities are not there. But I think post COVID, this is a change which is sort of irreversible. People have lived in house for many longer days and hours, and now the demand for houses with balconies, with amenities is much higher, and that's why perhaps it resulted into this luxury boom which we saw in the past few years.
So luxury boom is still continuing.
Yeah.
It's gone into some insane level. I'm personally not convinced about the amenities part. Okay, I had Vishal Bhargav a couple of weeks ago. He's saying that amenities is the item number. Everybody wants it, they like it, but you know,
Nobody uses it, but everybody wants it.
yeah. But you're right. I
Yeah.
get what you're saying. You know, it's kind of a double-edged sword, na? Ki you want those, you see a project which has all of this, and then you get chipped out the maintenance bill, and you're like, "Bhai, ye kya hai?" But then, if you want those amenities, they're going to come at a cost. Folks, do not go anywhere. On the other side of this break, we're going to talk about investments and much more about, you know, which areas are looking good, which areas are not looking good, and much more on the other side of this break. We'll be right back.
Did you know Indians report nearly 800 cases of online financial fraud every day, which has resulted in losses exceeding 1,000 crores in the last 5 years? To keep you safe from such fraud, I am starting my newest podcast series, Conversation with Vigilante, an initiative by HDFC Bank. In every episode, I will feature special guests who can share expert insights on the different types of fraud, their modus operandi, and how you can protect your money. Stay safe, stay vigilant, and don't forget to tune into Conversation with Vigilante. Catch the episodes on all audio streaming platforms and V for Vigilante YouTube channel.
And welcome back. Okay, Amit, which micro market in India, in your opinion, gives the highest rental yield today?
So see, right now there are some portions of Bangalore which have a very good rental yield, which is 4 to 6%.
4 to 6%.
Yeah, so there are some areas
Ay, shabash.
which
Not
are giving
bad.
really good ones.
Here I think Bombay में 2-3% भी
Yes,
मतलब
yes.
भीख मांग मांग के भी नहीं मिलता है. ठीक है, go on, sorry.
So I think it is so it is because of the recent work from office, work from home sort of thing. So those are the areas which have done well. Then there can be some specific pockets in some cities like Hyderabad where the rental yield would be good.
And which popular metro locality is overvalued, which you feel probably rentals will come down here?
So without taking the name of the localities, I would say that the rentals will not come down perhaps, but I think there are many areas which are especially dominated by the IT hubs.
Okay.
Some specific areas in Hyderabad, some specific areas of startups in Bangalore, where the rents are pretty high. They would not come down most probably. They will be plateauing from here. But coming down of rent looks very unlikely.
Has it ever happened in your 11 years that you've seen rentals, absolute amounts obviously, coming down?
Only in COVID.
But that was hardly
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
you can't
Yeah.
really and I think that got recovered more than a few
Yes.
after things improved. Okay, there's something called the house poor limit. Okay, you factor in maintenance, hidden costs. When I'm paying rent, how much should that rent be of my income? What we call the rent to income ratio that you would advise. You know, otherwise, if you land up, you know, falling in love with the property where you are, you'll end up paying a rent which will just bleeds you. What is that percentage in your opinion?
So see, what basically generally typically is, although it's a very personal decision and requires a financial planner, broadly what is said is that 50% is what of your take home cash income should spend on what are your needs, which is grocery and rent. And 30% in your wants, that you want to travel somewhere. And 20% is basically for savings. So if you see from that contour, not more than 30 to 40% of your cash income should be spent on rent. So that's a very fair and balanced, not more than that.
You have a view on EMI on income?
What do you mean by that?
if I'm buying, so this is for rent.
Yeah.
If I'm buying a house, how much should the EMI that I'm paying be as percentage of my income?
So it is basically, are you on rent right now? So rent plus EMI. So see, rent plus EMI is a deadly combination, and I'm sure if you are doing it, then you are stretching yourself.
But I'm assuming that at some point of time you'll
Yeah.
switch. Nobody will do both.
Correct. So I am assuming that perhaps then you can perhaps extend to the max that you can. Perhaps you can dip into your savings portion and give that 20% also to this. But I'm hoping that there is a close timeline when this will stop and when your rent will be replaced by only EMI.
What do you think about पुराने ज़माने के ख्यालात? घर खुद का हमेशा होना चाहिए. And stuff like that, which a lot of youngsters are now kind of figuring कि यार there was that phase during the कि ये क्या ये तो बुड्ढे लोग का है, मतलब it's old, it belongs to an era which has no use today. But I believe suddenly now after paying rent for so many years they're like, maybe. What do you think?
देखिए मैं रेंट पे रहता हूँ. So
Okay.
I am a very strong rent supporter. And we do both rent and buy and sell, so I am basically agnostic to it. Because I feel that being on rental gives me an opportunity to shift houses. I can live wherever I want. I'm not attached to one particular locality and house, gives me more freedom. And perhaps I would buy a house for myself when I retire. But the majority of the people feel that no, I need my dream house today. And because I want to change it in the way. So it's an extremely personal decision. It is also linked towards how much freedom you want, how much mobility you want, whether both husband and wife are working, and whether you see it as a wealth generation. So if you are a guy who believes more in stock, more in equity, then you will not buy houses for wealth generation.
Correct.
But I know people in my own office who basically believe that it's a very strong wealth generation mechanism or saving mechanism, and hence they prefer to buy houses. One more angle is here, which is more emotional angle, let me tell you. You are a professional who is working in a good company, earning well. You might have a big equity portfolio. You might be having a crores of equity portfolio. But how do people around you know that you have made it? Until you say that I live in this posh locality of Bombay, right? So this is also a way for people to exert that they have arrived in life. By buying a house, you also communicate that.
Wonderful point you've raised, because everybody like now social media also is like will soon turn 20 years old. 10-20 साल पहले जो लोग बोलते थे रेंट पे रहो वो सब घर खरीद रहे हैं अभी. खरीद रहे हैं और उसका फोटो भी पोस्ट कर रहे हैं. So that you are so right on that. Nothing says you've arrived other than a house.
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay. Ghost listings. What are ghost listings to our audience, and how does proptech solve for that?
So ghost listing basically mean that the property is now no longer available, right? So see, ghost listings happen. You have to think, why do they happen? So think about any platform which has brokers. A broker would want to put a fake listing or a ghost listing. Why? Because he wants you to come to his office. So as a broker, I would want to post a property of 50,000 rupees of rent in Bandra. Even when I know it's not possible, because I want somebody to click on it, a clickbait, and then you come to me and then I will show you something else, saying, hey, this is gone. But think about a real owner. If you are an owner and you post a property on NoBroker and now the property is gone, why would you want the property to be on our platform? Because we will keep on calling you. Our tenants will keep on calling you.
Correct.
So the ghost listing origin is because of incentive mismatch. As a broker platform, you want the ghost listings as a clickbait. But on NoBroker, the owner is petrified. Hey, why am I getting these calls? So owners actively tell us my property is gone, please remove it.
Okay.
And we have an algorithm also which says that if in X number of days owner has not informed us, we'll remove it ourselves.
Chalo. So it's a good it's a good tool for transparency.
Yes.
Algorithm se yaad aaya. AI. What's going to happen there? You think that AI is disrupting pretty much every field. Can AI disrupt brokers, your sector, housing? I तो seriously doubt. Please help me understand if that's possible.
देखिए, तो AI का तो जमाना है ही और AI की सब बातें हो रही हैं. तो AI से help ये हो सकता है that you can visualize your house better. So especially in buy and sell where अभी होटल गड्ढा खुदा हुआ, you don't know how the house will look. AI can help you visualize the house better. It can help you design the house better. You just need to wave a wand and it will basically make the house, at least visualize the house that way. But there are things like negotiation with the owner. There are things like actually visiting the house. that you need to do yourself. So a portion of the research, a portion of the visualization, a portion of comparison can surely be given to AI, which will help every customer. But because this is a non-frequent and high-value purchase, you don't want too many shortcuts. Right? You want help, but it is a good idea to actually physically go there and see.
Touch and feel product, है ना?
Yeah.
ठीक है. See, you've got data on like millions. You've said 4 crore. That's a huge number. What is the single biggest financial mistake? Huh? You repeatedly see both owners and renters, okay? Owners and tenants make when dealing with housing.
So the mistake which I see owners doing is that they have, including me, they have a particular rent in their mind or even a sell price in their mind. So suppose you have a sell price of 1 crore for a house. Now, how much interest will you get when you put 1 crore in a bank? You will get 6 to 7% interest.
Correct.
So 50,000 rupees you are getting from the bank every month. So now we have seen owners who say that I will not sell my property below 1 crore. I have got an offer of 98 lakhs. And the person is willing to wait for 6 more months, but not ready to give it 90 lakhs, forgetting that the moment he gets those 98 lakhs, he can put it in the bank.
Wow.
So the biggest financial mistake which I see is that people just pick up a price and are hell-bent on that price, forgetting the time value of money. Should look about how much money you are losing, because, and similar thing with rent, it's even more pronounced in rent. You have a house with 30,000 rupees of rent, which basically means 1,000 per day. Now, if you say, okay, my house will remain vacant for 20 days because I want 30,000, not 28, you've already lost so much of money. And you multiply the loss of 28,000 versus 30,000 even by 12 months, it is not worth that wait. So I think that's the biggest mistake which owners do, that they forget the time value of money and the cost of the opportunity gone.
Okay.
From tenant side, I would say the biggest mistake is not financial, but more of practical, is that everybody wants to see the house in the weekend.
Okay.
So you need to break the clutter and say, okay, I will leave office half an hour earlier, 1 hour earlier at 5 p.m. and I will see the house in the weekday. So you break the clutter, you catch the good house faster.
What a tip, what a lovely tip. Give me a list now. So help me here. What would you recommend to landlords for them to get a better deal on their apartment? And what would you recommend to tenants for them to get a better deal on the place where they're going to stay? Maybe a checklist, okay? So let's start with landlords first.
So for a landlord, I think what basically makes more perfect sense is to be as unbiased as possible. We have seen people saying no to based on religion. Forget religion. Within religion also it is about are you Catholic or not. So that type of thing basically reduces your chances of getting a good human being as your tenant and as well as good economic outcome. So bias towards religion, caste, veg, non-veg, bachelors, I think all of these need to now go in this era. So I think from owner side, this is the biggest mistake.
Okay.
And second is that you focus more on a tenant who will keep the house well, and you can perhaps take feedback from the previous owner as to how upkeep of the house has been in case you have any doubt. So I think from the owner, that is the biggest thing which needs to be done. From the tenant's perspective, if you are looking for a great deal, I think the good idea is to be on the lookout, do some effort. So what typically people do is they give their notice, and then in a very short period they're looking for a great deal, but great deal may not come this month, may come next month. So I think a little bit more of footwork, visiting in the weekdays and trying to keep tab on a platform like NoBroker, on WhatsApp groups is a good idea. So don't just go when you need it at the last moment, plan little better.
Yeah. How's the process, right? Because I remember when I used to stay on rent, वो negotiation का time आता है, वो time पे सब everything is the first की rent बढ़ाएगा बंदा, बोलेगा जाने को कोई और है. Some landlords think that I'm going to encroach their house, okay, which I'm not going to. Why should I do that, okay? What's a smooth process according to you which addresses this thing about, कि आपने notice period दे दे, you're searching for a new house, you're doing everything in a hurry. Ideally, what should that process be when you're shifting homes?
So I would say that not treating owner as someone who is unfriendly or unwanted is the first step. So even your current owner, so you go ahead and you please invite him as many times as you can. Don't worry. If he sees that you are you are keeping the house in good condition. Then we have seen, for example, especially with NRIs,
Yeah.
even if you tell them that you increase the rent, your house is on lower rent, they don't want to increase. They are saying,
Wow.
if the rent is lower compared to the vicinity, I am okay. But I like this tenant, he's taking care of my house, I don't want to change.
Wow.
So I am saying the first step is that you keep your owner in good spirits and you communicate to him how well you are.
Yeah.
So I think that is the most important step which is missing.
Yeah. I just feel that a good tenant is a great asset for a landlord, and a
Yeah.
good landlord is obviously a very good thing for the tenant.
Correct. And I'm telling you, we talk to so many NRIs,
Uh,
they simply refuse to increase the rent because they fear
Tenant
that this
chala jayega.
tenant will go and we don't know how the new tenant would be. So think from other guy's perspective also. Owners value a lot about how good you keep their houses.
Yeah, because if you change tenants, there's a financial cost.
Yeah.
First आएगा कि पूरे घर का पेंटिंग कराओ,
Yes.
broker को पैसा दो, or who wants that?
Correct.
If you just take an Excel sheet and you figure out those costs, you'll say that keeping the existing tenant who's
Makes more,
treating
yeah.
your house well, by the
Yeah.
way, that's important. Okay, I want to talk just this last bit. I want you to help our audience understand investment in real estate. Rent versus buy is all fine, but if someone who's watching this wants to actually invest in real estate as an asset of an overall allocation, there are very few options available. One is to buy a house, put it on rent. Now at least some options are improving. Fractional units have come in. Okay, you have REITs.
Yeah.
Or you can just buy stocks of real estate developers in the stock market. How do you see this entire pattern? Like someone who wants to play the real estate story in India, which is doing well, hopefully in the years to come, if there's economic growth happening, demand for real estate will come in, people will buy houses, people will go on rent. And if I want a piece of action on that, how do you view this map? What would you recommend?
So this is a very good question. I would suggest that to rethink before just going and buying. You think as to why you are buying. And there are many ways to get a piece of the action. If your main objective is to get appreciation, please find out a great deal that you are getting. So there are always, in every market, there are some great deals. So in my own office also, people come on NoBroker public listings and they spend few weekends and they are able to find a very good deal which is hiding in plain sight.
Huh?
And
Seriously?
and where the owner is ready to give it a discount, but you need to go out there.
Okay.
So one is that don't buy, if you're looking for appreciation, don't buy what is available. Do some legwork.
Okay.
Second thing is, please consider commercial properties for appreciation.
I don't hear that often. Tell us more.
Yeah, so by commercial, what I mean is when we see on this road itself, there are so many small shops which are 100 square feet, 200 square feet. Now these shops are on this road where the traffic is there and they are being owned by somebody. The rental yield here is 12%.
Wow.
So even in Bombay, where the rental yield is typically 2% for houses, for commercial properties means small shops, it is 10 to 12%. And you'll be surprised to know that most of the HNIs, they are very smart about it. So they just don't buy houses, they invest in small commercial properties. Us middle class people generally think that commercial means Infosys office or some large offices, पर ऐसा नहीं है. आप छोटी छोटी शॉप देखिए.
I'm assuming that doing that is a bit tough, right? Because it might not be transparent, na, yaar? Because the guy who's owning it might want cash, might want this, might want that.
कुछ भी नहीं है ऐसा.
Wow,
So
okay.
the same thing in house applies here. In fact, this is a much more dynamic and vibrant transactions because you see so many restaurants close and new ones come. So a lot of churn anyway happens. So it's a very vibrant thing.
Okay,
The
okay.
deals is very good. So I would suggest REITs are great option. Fractional ownership is also there in commercial property. So there are platforms which help you get a part of office where LG is residing and so on. So I suggest look at different perspectives. So it's a very good idea.
Okay, fantastic. Just wrap this episode up, Amit, with outlook. Like where do you see the rental markets going? Will help if you can tell us Bangalore, Delhi, Bombay, what's happening there, and where do you see the end market, for houses going from here? You think this luxury boom will go on forever, etc. Let's start first with the rental market across cities. What's your outlook there?
So I think rental broadly are going to now cool off.
Okay.
Because whatever impact of COVID lingering impact was there, it has now completely played out. Whichever companies were supposed to shift from work from home to work from office have already done that. So I think my request to the audience would be to not panic and not extrapolate the increment they have been seeing in rent in the past few years. that trajectory is not going to continue. It is non-sustainable. So that is going to cool off across all cities. Yes, there will be some pockets where the demand supply gap will be there, but that has always been the case. So that is on the rental side. On the buy and sell side, there are good opportunities there in every city. But if you ask me which is the best city and which is the worst city, I would say please consider Pune for investment. There are good deals there in Pune. And the city to be most careful about is the NCR.
A different animal only, huh?
Yeah. So
कुछ भी चलता है वहाँ पे.
So I think so many people basically jokingly compare NCR market as a future and options market of real estate. So I think things are some pockets, things are very heated, so you should be very careful. And if you are a owner, I think you should dispose whatever you can. Yeah.
Fantastic, folks. That's a whole bunch of tips for you out there, whether you're a tenant, whether you're a landlord, whether you're someone who wants to buy a house, even sell a house. On that note, that is a wrap on this episode of Paisa. My guest, Amit Agarwal, CEO and co-founder of NoBroker. Amit, keep coming back to Bombay. Be on our show more often. I would love to have you, this is the first time we've been around for 8 years. You've been around for what, some 13, 14 years. Hopefully, if you have a listing ahead of you in the stock market, I wish you all the best. Please do keep coming back. Housing is roti, kapda, makan. Roti, kapda की तो बात तो यहाँ मतलब ज़्यादा होती नहीं, but मकान के बारे में, if we can have you again, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.